During a family trip overseas, my mother-in-law confiscated my passport, declaring, "You'll come home when you learn respect." My husband Mark chimed in, "You're lucky we even brought you along." Terrified, I met his gaze and calmly stated, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." That night, as they slept, I slipped away. I still can't quite believe it happened. I'm writing this from a place I never thought I'd reach, mentally, emotionally, physically, but here I am. Mark and I had been married for 4 years. I met him at work. He was confident, ambitious, and refined. People admired him, and so did I, initially. But looking back, I think I fell for the idea of him more than the actual person. I overlooked many warning signs early on, like how he always interrupted me in front of others, or how he never defended me when his mother subtly critiqued my rough edges. Barbara, his mother, was outwardly polite, but behind closed doors, she made me feel like a mere visitor in my own life. She criticized my clothes, my cleaning, even my laugh. Mark never intervened, simply excusing it with, "You know how she is," as if that justified everything. The trip to Italy was supposed to be a fresh start. Mark pitched it as a romantic getaway with a side of family time. I desperately wanted to believe him, to believe that if I just kept trying, things would improve. But from day one, it was clear who was truly in charge. Barbara handled all the hotel bookings, the daily itinerary, and even selected the restaurants. I thought Mark might at least set a boundary regarding our shared space, but no. She handed me a single luggage tag at check-in, stating, "We don't need more clutter." I ended up sharing a cramped twin bed with Mark, while Barbara enjoyed a queen suite all to herself. It was her way of constantly reminding me of my place. On the third day, I finally spoke up. I asked if we could spend a few hours at the Uffizi Gallery, a place I had dreamed of visiting since I was 19, having even studied art history in college. It wasn't a huge request, but Barbara scoffed, "You think this trip is about you?" Mark didn't even glance up from his phone, murmuring, "We already have plans." I replied, "Well, maybe I'll go by myself then." That's when Barbara rose, went to her room, retrieved my passport from her bag, and declared, "You'll come home when you learn respect." I was too shocked to speak. Mark just looked at me as if I was overreacting. "You're lucky we even brought you," he repeated. I stared at him for a long moment. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just felt something inside me die. Very quietly, I said, "You just made the worst mistake of your life." That night, I waited until they were sound asleep. Barbara had taken her nightly sedative and Mark had passed out after his third glass of wine. I grabbed my tote bag, packing only essentials, my phone, wallet, charger, and one change of clothes. Then, I walked out. The young front desk clerk didn't ask questions. I told him I needed to catch a train and asked for directions to the station. He kindly gave me a map and circled the route. I got lucky. A train to Milan was departing in 40 minutes. I used the cash I'd discreetly tucked into my bra to buy a one-way ticket. I sat quietly in a middle seat, gazing out the window. The farther we got from Florence, the more I could breathe. Years ago, I had interned with a professor in Milan. We hadn't spoken in ages, but I still had her number saved. I texted her from the train, explaining everything. She replied instantly, "Come, you'll be safe here. We'll figure it out." When I arrived, she picked me up herself, offered me food and a bed. She didn't treat me like a burden. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I've been in contact with the US consulate. They're assisting me in replacing my passport. It will take time, but I'm not rushing because this isn't just about leaving, it's about something much bigger. Mark and Barbara stripped me of my dignity. They used control, isolation, and emotional manipulation. They thought they had broken me, but they severely underestimated me. They have no idea what's coming next. I stayed in Milan longer than anticipated. The US consulate estimated about 2 weeks to process my emergency passport, which gave me ample time to think, and honestly, I needed every minute. At first, I didn't even check my phone. I just slept, ate, and explored the city. I felt numb, not sad, not angry, just empty. My host, Dr. Rossetti, was incredibly kind. She gave me space, didn't ask too many questions, and simply let me be. But on the third day, I reactivated my phone. Over 50 messages flooded in. Most were from Mark. Some sounded feigned concern. "Where did you go? Are you okay?" Then came the angry ones. "You're being dramatic. You're ruining my mother's birthday. This is kidnapping." That last one stunned me. Kidnapping. Then the messages grew darker. "If you come back now, we can fix this. Do not make this worse. You're humiliating me." That's when the truth became clear. He wasn't worried about me. He was afraid of me. or more precisely, of what I might say or do. I didn't respond. I blocked him. The next day, I received a call from a friend back home, Jamie. She told me Mark had been spreading a story that I'd had a mental breakdown in Europe, that I'd run away and abandoned my passport. Barbara had apparently been making the rounds, too, calling family and fabricating a narrative, claiming I'd been unstable for years and that the trip stress pushed me over the edge. She even insinuated I might be a danger to myself. That ignited a fire within me I didn't know I possessed. I wasn't going to hide anymore. If they wanted to spin a tale, fine, but I had undeniable proof. I began meticulously documenting everything. I forwarded emails from the consulate, wrote down a detailed timeline, and made notes about every conversation, when and where it happened. I collected screenshots of every message Mark had sent me. I even unearthed old texts from Barbara where she called me a glorified maid and lucky to wear her son's ring. I created a Dropbox folder and backed up absolutely everything. Then, I contacted a lawyer. She wasn't cheap, but she was sharp, American, and based in Rome. She had handled situations like mine before. She told me, they thought keeping your passport gave them control, but you've got something much stronger, proof. She helped me initiate the legal separation process from abroad. It was complex but entirely feasible, and we didn't stop there. With her guidance, I drafted a formal statement for my lawyer back home, detailing everything, the emotional abuse, the control, the public lies. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to systematically dismantle the little empire they had constructed, brick by brick. That's when I uncovered something that fundamentally changed everything. Mark had forged my signature on a joint credit card a few months before the trip. My lawyer discovered the paperwork while reviewing our accounts. He had opened a card in both our names, racked up over $8,000 in charges, and never told me. Flights, gifts, dinners, some charges didn't even make sense. Jewelry I never received. Luxury stores I'd never set foot in. Then it all clicked. This trip wasn't just a celebration for Barbara. It was a power play, a calculated setup, maybe even a way to trap me overseas while he manipulated finances or covered his tracks. Now, I had irrefutable legal grounds for fraud. Barbara and Mark had no idea I knew, but they were about to find out. A week after uncovering the forged credit card, my lawyer unearthed something else. Mark had attempted to access my private savings account. He failed, but not before triggering a security alert. The bank flagged it and temporarily froze the account. This was money I had saved before we even married, money I thought was secure. Now I understood. The passport, the trip, the emotional breakdown. It wasn't just about control. It was about cutting me off, financially isolating me. So I couldn't leave, so I'd be too broken to fight back. But he moved too quickly, became sloppy. I stayed in Milan while we meticulously gathered evidence. Meanwhile, my lawyer contacted a forensic accountant in the US who specialized in marital fraud. She found something else. Mark had opened a new bank account solely in his name, and over the past 6 months, he had been slowly siphoning money from our joint account into it. More than $24,000 was missing. When I confronted him via email, he didn't deny it. He simply stated, "I took what I earned. You wouldn't even have that account if it weren't for me." That was the first time I had cried in weeks, not because he took the money, but because I had stayed with someone who genuinely believed I owed him everything, my time, my freedom, my damn paycheck. But here's where things got even worse, and where the tide truly began to turn in my favor. Jamie, my friend back home, kept me updated. She told me that rumors were rampant, people were confused. Why would I abandon Mark on a family trip? Why? Was Barbara claiming I'd been institutionalized when I was clearly posting from Italy and appeared perfectly fine? So, I made my first public move. I wrote a long, clear, and utterly emotionless Facebook post. I included the unvarnished facts that I had left Florence of my own volition, that I was safe and in constant contact with the US consulate, that my passport had been taken from me without consent, that I was seeking legal separation, and that financial misconduct was involved. I attached a screenshot of the fraud alert email and the joint account summary with the missing funds. I said nothing else. No anger, no dramatics. That post changed everything. In less than a day, was shared over 300 times. Friends, co-workers, even a few of Mark's former colleagues commented, expressing no surprise. One person wrote, "He's always had a God complex." Then something extraordinary happened. I received an anonymous email from a woman named Tracy. She wrote, "You don't know me, but I know your husband. We dated a few years before you got married. I saw your post. I think I have something you need to see. Attached was a PDF, a printout of texts from 2018, back when Mark and I were still engaged. In them, Mark told Tracy he was only marrying me because it made financial sense, and because I was stable and obedient. He even boasted about how easy it was to mold me. That was the final fracture, the last piece I needed to see the entire horrifying picture. He never loved me. He just wanted someone he could control, someone who would make him look good in public while he pulled all the strings behind closed doors. And Barbara, she wasn't just complicit, she was the mastermind. She had cultivated in him the belief that women were mere accessories, that marriage was ownership, that control equated to love. But I was done being silenced, and they were nowhere near prepared for what came next. By the time I returned to the States, I was no longer the same person who had boarded the plane to Rome. The new passport was in my hand. The paperwork for legal separation was filed, and my plan was fully in motion. I had nothing left to fear. Mark had taken his shot and missed. First, I froze every account we had ever shared. The forensic accountant helped me file an emergency financial injunction. A judge quickly approved it once we presented the forged credit card and the stolen funds. Mark was cut off from the money he had attempted to hide. Then, I filed a restraining order, not just against him, but against Barbara, too. I still had the messages, the voice memos, even hotel surveillance footage from Florence showing her walking off with my passport. My lawyer described it as calculated, psychological imprisonment. The restraining order wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Barbara was a board member at a local non-profit back home, one that supported women's education. The irony was palpable. I sent them the exact same documents I had shared online. I didn't say a word, just sent the proof. 2 days later, she was quietly, discreetly removed from the board. It was a blow to her ego that resonated loudly throughout our town. Mark didn't handle it well. He tried calling me from new numbers. He even showed up outside my workplace once, but security promptly escorted him out. I remained calm. I documented everything, every call, every message, every attempt he made to distort the story. Then came the court date. I walked into that courtroom wearing the same black blazer I wore to my job interviews years ago, back when I was still the one financially supporting both of us. Mark sat there in a cheap suit, sweaty, his eyes darting around the room. He thought I'd be scared, that I'd cry or backtrack. Instead, I presented every piece of evidence in calm, straightforward language. The judge listened intently. My lawyer was incredibly sharp. The moment I displayed the forged credit card application, his signature overlapping mine, was the moment Mark's shoulders slumped. He knew it was over. The judge ruled decisively in my favor. Emergency financial restitution granted, immediate legal separation granted, fraud charges under investigation, and the restraining order extended for 5 years. But the real satisfaction came a month later. I didn't know Tracy well, but we had stayed in touch after she sent those texts. One day she messaged me again. "You might want to check this." She sent me a screenshot from a local dating forum. It was Mark's profile, posted under a fake name. Same job, same photos, but now he was listing himself as recently single, recovering from a bad divorce with a mentally unstable ex-wife. I didn't say a word. Instead, I created a second Dropbox. I uploaded everything again, but this time, I added a new file, the divorce ruling, signed and stamped, clearly detailing the financial abuse and fraud. I anonymously posted the link under his profile. Then, I left it alone. I heard from mutual friends that his dating life imploded, that women Googled him, saw the Reddit thread someone had reposted, and quickly distanced themselves. His reputation, something he used to guard like gold, was crumbling. Barbara went quieter after that. She stopped appearing at the country club, stopped calling mutual acquaintances to spread stories. I think even she realized this time, she had lost. As for me, I moved to a new place closer to work and received a promotion 3 months later. I now sleep with my windows open, I take solo trips, I read books without feeling compelled to be doing something else for someone else. I'm not bitter, I'm not angry, but I will never forget the moment Mark looked at me in that hotel room and said I was lucky they even brought me. Because that moment made everything that followed worth it. I didn't just leave. I didn't just survive. I made sure they would never forget me. And that, truly, is the kind of freedom they can never take away.